Today's video is all about transferring onto tissue paper. I picked this tissue paper up at the dollar store, and I'm also going to use these CD labels. What we're looking for is that shiny paper underneath. I use this a lot in my transfer videos, and this works perfect for this project. Because we're peeling the labels off of this paper, I like to run it through my printer and print on it, and then we can add that to our mixed media projects, junk journaling, paper crafts, cards, so many possibilities. So we're just going to peel these stickers off, and then we're going to use that shiny sheet of paper underneath for our transfer technique onto tissue paper. I always find these labels at the thrift store if you go to the stationery section, but you can also find it on Amazon or your local stationery store. Now we want to load that paper into our laser printer, making sure you're putting it in so it's going to print on the shiny side. You can experiment with an inkjet printer, but I find that the ink smears really easy and it's kind of difficult to get a good transfer. That being said, give it a try, but it does work best with a laser printer. And we've printed off our graphic on that shiny side of that label paper. I love this graphic. It's available in my Etsy store. It's ephemera that's perfect for junk journaling, mixed media to turn into cards, so many possibilities. You want to make sure that you're not touching that toner because it will rub off easy, so just be really careful when you're handling it. I've cut a piece of tissue paper just a tiny bit bigger than that label sheet, and we're going to be really careful and gently press it down on that label sheet. We're going to be using our Mod Podge mat. I'm going to put a little bit in a dish. I got a big clump here. That's one thing about Mod Podge. It sometimes likes to clump up a little bit, and I'm going to add some water to it. Also, you can see I already had a little bit of water in that dish, just enough to maybe a 50-50 mixture. So when we're spreading it, it's going to spread easier. And we're going to take a brush and rub that water and Mod Podge all over that piece of tissue paper. I like to start from the middle and work my way out because it kind of prevents any air bubbles or wrinkles. Although the wrinkles don't really matter, it kind of gives it character, but it just helps it go on smoother. You also want to use a very gentle hand because you can rip or tear the tissue paper really easy. Don't have any tissue paper in your stash? Use one ply of a napkin, or you can also try using some toilet paper or paper towel. Just experiment with this technique because there's so many possibilities, but my favorite is to use tissue paper. I love experimenting with different transfer techniques, and I have a huge video with every transfer technique that I've ever tried all put together in one. I'll put the link to that down below in the description, or you can click it up here in the corner. I'll also put a QR code if you want to scan that because it's such a great resource for all of your DIY projects that you can try all of these different transfer techniques. This one right here is right up in one of my top 5 transfer technique methods. If you do find that you rip a little bit of your tissue paper, don't fret because it does get really fragile when you're adding that Mod Podge and water to it. Just rip a little piece off, add it to that area, dab it so the Mod Podge soaks through, and you're fine. If you want to speed along the drying process, you can use a heat gun, but if you don't have a heat gun, don't worry, you can just set it aside and let it dry completely. I'm going to do another sheet. This is another ephemera graphic that I have available in my Etsy store that's lots of fun to craft with. We're going to add just a little bit of brown acrylic paint to that Mod Podge and water mixture and stir it really well until it's completely incorporated. And we're going to do the same process as we did with the first one. I've cut out a piece of tissue paper a little bit bigger than that label sheet, and we're going to start brushing on from the middle, working out with the Mod Podge, acrylic paint, and water mixture. Okay, now our first sheet is completely dry. This is a crucial step. You have to make sure it's completely dry. And then you just peel that tissue paper away from that label sheet and you have a transfer that's happening on the tissue paper. This isn't a perfect transfer. You're going to have little bits and pieces that aren't going to attach onto that tissue paper, but I love it because I think it gives it that distressed look. And this is so satisfying to peel this away and see that image end up on that tissue paper. I have a lot of people ask me if you can reuse that carrier sheet, and I do find if you use a little bit of rubbing alcohol and take off any ink that was left on it, you sometimes can use it 2 or 3 times again. But isn't this transfer fabulous? You can see my hand through it, so anything that you're putting underneath it is going to show through. I've got some homemade paper that I'm showing you what it looks like. This is a piece of faux homemade paper that I used, and see how you can kind of see it through. It's perfect for adding to junk journals. I also like to use these on glass jars because if you don't want to paint your glass jar, you can put this transfer on it and you can put a candle in your glass jar and it'll sparkle through and it looks beautiful. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. I'm going to cut out this frame portion of this transfer, and of course you can keep all these little pieces that you cut off and add them to your mixed media projects. Just tuck them away, don't throw them out. And I'm just taking a pair of sharp scissors and cutting away this frame, and we're going to add it to a glass jar. I've cleaned my glass jar really well, wiped it down with some rubbing alcohol, and now we're going to add this transfer onto it. I'm going to use my Mod Podge mat. I'm going to put some on the back of it and then just add it to the glass jar. You will find with this technique that one side is going to be shiny and the other side is going to be matte. So you can decide what side you want to show on your project and flip it over either way. But the Mod Podge as a glue works really well to adhere it to your projects. If you have one of your own photos, you can print that on the label sheet and then do this technique, and you can transfer one of your family photos onto a glass jar, and they make really great gifts. The second sheet is completely dry, and again, you have to make sure you let it dry completely. This one transferred fantastic. And again, it's so satisfying to peel this away and see the image transfer onto that tissue paper. I love inspiration. So what would you use this image transfer for? Let me know down in the comments and we can share some ideas together down there. And you can see that this has like a sepia look to it when we added that brown acrylic paint into the Mod Podge and water. I made some homemade paper recently, so I took that first image and I added it to a little greeting card, and I also made my own envelope and then just cut out some of the portions of that transfer and added them to the envelope. And here's a little candle lit in that glass jar, and you can see how it sparkles through that image. It's just beautiful. And here's without a candle that you can fill with maybe some treats, or so many possibilities with this technique. Give it a try. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. And if you love this video, I'm sure you're going to love either of these next two. Take care.